bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing.
Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another fun end of the year video. I'm going to be sharing the books that made me laugh and the books that made me cry this year. So I'm not talking about the books that made me like giggle or just like that sort of thing. I'm talking about the books that made me laugh out loud and also with crying. I'm not talking about the books that made me a little emotional. I'm not talking about the books that made me a little misty-eyed. I'm talking about the books that made me full on sob. So today I'm going to be sharing the books that made me laugh and cry. I only have 4 that made me laugh. So we're going to go over those first, and then we're going to talk about the ones that made me cry. And a lot of people ask me, am I an emotional reader? And I still don't think I had, out of all of the books that I read this year, over 200 books, I don't think this is that large of a list. So let me know if you laugh and you cry, and which books made you laugh and which books made you cry. So starting off with the laugh books, I have 4 books to share with you. The first book that I want to share with you is Blacktop Wasteland by 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒔. I can immediately think of both of 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒔's books, Razorblade Tears and this one. I read Razorblade Tears last year and this one, and they both made me laugh. Like, his characters are hilarious. Like, the story, the plot, that is not it. It is the characters, mainly the side characters, that are just so real and so funny. And like, there are just one-line zingers that have me rolling for days. This is about a getaway driver named Bug who is doing one last job, and his friend, I don't even remember his friend's name, but like, hilarious, had me rolling several times. So if you are looking for a good laugh, definitely check out 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒔, because both of his books have made me laugh. And I can't wait to read, not a new release, but a re-release. It's called My Darkest Prayer, I think, and I'm really looking forward to that one. But love these characters, love his story, love the characters from Razorblade Tears, and they absolutely make me laugh out loud. Another book that made me laugh, and I was not expecting to laugh in this book, is The Sleep Solution by W. Chris Winter, MD. Guys, this is a self-help nonfiction book about how to fix your sleep and the solution to getting a good night's sleep. And y'all, who would ever think that I would be laughing out loud in this sort of book? But I did. It is hilarious. So I actually like borrowed a bunch of sleep books from the library. This was one of them. And I was laughing out loud so much back in the spring in April that my husband was like, you need to get your own copy so you can like mark it up and have it. And I'm so glad that I did, because I definitely highlight a lot in here. There's highlighting all over the page, as you can see. And not only am I laughing, but I'm also learning a lot along the way. And I think that's the way to make it stick, is like, if you can make it relatable, make it funny, make it emotional, like the story kind of sticks with you. And in this case, all of these fun facts about sleep are sticking with me. And it was just like every other line I was wanting to share with my husband. So I'm actually reading this now, because I started it in April. Nonfiction is kind of hard for me to get through because I have all the fiction books that I want to read, but I am going back to read this, and I'm hoping to finish it this weekend. But so funny. The next book that made me laugh out loud was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, one of my favorite books of the year. I don't remember specifically what made me laugh out loud, because you're gonna see this show up on my cry list too, but this book just had all of the emotions. Florence Day, and she is a ghostwriter for one of the most like infamous like romance authors, and she's on deadline for her latest book, and her new editor does not give her an extension on her deadline, but she ends up getting a call to go home because her father died, and it's there that she's back with her family in the funeral home and grieving her father, being with her family. A ghost pops up and she can talk to ghosts, and it's just, it has humor, it has heart, it's wholesome, small town vibes. Like, I cannot talk about this book enough. Like, it is so funny, so sad, and I love it so much. So if you have not read this book, you can literally read it any time of year because it's just that good, you know? The last book that made me laugh out loud was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This book is a true rom-com. I don't know about you, but it takes a lot for me to laugh out loud. As you can see, over 200 books and only 4 of them have made me laugh out loud. But even in movies, like, I'm not a person to laugh out loud, even in romantic comedies. So the humor is good in this one. It balances the romance, the quirkiness, the age gap, the small town, the big city girl going to the small town, the heavier topics in here. You have these 2 characters. She's older than he is. She lives in the big city. She's this big city ER doctor. And he lives out in this like country small town. You're gonna see this show up on the cry list too because it was just that good. It packed all of the emotions in there. So definitely love this one. And if you're looking for a good laugh and a good cry, all right, so these are the 4 books that made me laugh out loud this year. We love a good laugh. Thank you so much to these authors. Thank you so much to these books because, you know, they made me like have some joy, and that's always a good thing. So love that for me. Now let's move into the books that made me cry. One of the very first books that made me cry this year was The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, and I'm sure a lot of people cried in this one. It's just a very sad book, and Kristen Hanna has a way of like making you honestly care about her characters so much, and all of the hardship that these characters went through, the Dust Bowl era, and they just lose a lot and they go through a lot, and the struggle and strife, and like, I don't know, there's some really emotional stuff in here. So there were a few times like throughout the book that I did get misty-eyed, that I did get, you know, sad. It starts in Texas in 1921 and then it moves on to like 1934. So after the Great War is over, like the land is plentiful, everything seems great, and you know, it starts off like, okay, things are going to be awesome. But then 1934 happens, and that's the Great Dust Bowl, and it wreaked havoc across America because all of the farms and all of the farmers were struggling because of all of this dust. And a lot of people had to like leave their homes and move out to California hoping things would be better, and they weren't because everybody was moving out there. So the job market was not great. It was a lot. And it is a longer book. Kristen Hanna just has a way of really making you root for her characters. You spend a large amount of time with them over years. Things change, and while a lot of the book just made me very emotional, like throughout the journey, there was just one thing that broke me, and I didn't think I would ever recover, but here we are on the other side. But yeah, if you want a good cry, pick up The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. Another book that made me cry, I wasn't quite expecting it, and it was just one scene, but that one scene broke me, y'all, and that is The Maid by Nita Prose. I can't tell you what the one scene is, but if you've read it, you probably know, but it was just unexpected, and I was super emotional about it. I was crying, and it just, y'all. This book is very predictable, and I think that's why it does get lower ratings. But like, you have to think about the main character, and you have to think about how she sees the world. And if you look at the world through her lens, like, she's such an innocent person. Like, she can't see things that are happening right under her nose. And there's people like that in the real world. So I just loved this. I thought it was so fun, and that one scene got me. That's all I'm gonna say. Another book that made me super emotional that you probably won't be expecting to see on this list is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I wasn't really into this one as much as I thought I was gonna be, but there was just something about the mother-daughter relationship that really got to me. And I think it just has to do with my own life experiences with my mother, or my lack of a mother figure in my life. And seeing her fight so hard to get back to her daughter, and just the way she would talk about her daughter really had me super emotional. So, Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Not my favorite Colleen Hoover book. Not the Colleen Hoover book that's made me cry the most, but it's the one that I read this year that made me cry. The next book that made me cry, and I really don't remember like how it made me cry, but What You Wish For by Catherine Center. Yeah, this was it was like a quirky book. Follows a school librarian. It's about like self-discovery, and it's just like a feel-good book at the same time. So I'm not sure what made me cry, but I do remember crying in this, and it was written down on my list. So, you know, go into this. If you've liked Catherine Center's books, I've only read this one, but I have like 3 others on my TBR. So I should be reading some next year in 2023. If not, hold me to it. Be like, where are those Catherine Center books? Why haven't you read them yet? Because I need to get on it. Another book that made me cry for like kind of personal reasons, but I think anybody can be like upset about it, and Now She's Gone by Rachel Housel Hall. This is a thriller book, and I definitely was not expecting a domestic abuse plot line in here, but when I got to that portion of the story, it hits a little too close to home. It definitely made me emotional several times. I definitely ugly cried several times, just because unfortunately I could relate to the things happening in that story. But the rest of the story, not sad. It's not, you know, it's just because I relate to it personally, but it's actually a really good book and you should check it out. I think it's severely underrated. Another book that had me cry should come as no surprise, My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I'm surprised I didn't laugh in this one, like laugh out loud, but it definitely made me cry because you just have like 2 best friends and they go through a lot, but they're always there for each other, and you see them, you know, like in their most like teenage formative years, and I was shocked that I cried, but I did. And if you know, you know. Yet another book that made me cry, The Unsinkable Greta James by Jennifer E. Smith, another one I borrowed from my library. I thought that the Greta James was going to be the name of the boat. No, no, no. It's the name of the main character. So Greta James and her father go on this cruise because their mother has died, and he was supposed to take her. It was supposed to be like their anniversary trip or something like that, but the mother dies, and so the daughter goes with the dad on the trip, and it's obviously very emotional because, you know, Greta's going through some things, the dad's going through some things, and obviously he's grieving the loss of his wife and she's grieving the loss of her mother, and yeah, obviously that brought a lot of sadness. So it definitely made me cry. All right, I said it would come up again, and here it is, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Yeah, it made me laugh. It made me cry. One of my favorite books of the year. I'm going to be talking about this in other videos, so I don't want to hang around on it too long. But if you're looking for a good rom-com with all of the emotions, it has depth. Yeah, definitely pick this up. It's like a Hallmark, but with substance. That's what I would say. Another one that made me absolutely cry, again, was not expecting it, because this is kind of like a sci-fi-ish. I don't know. The Measure by Nikki Erlich. I read this with my patrons over the summer, and I think we all probably cried. I'm not sure, but I definitely did. This book is just so good. It has so many different like tropes and themes and all of that. But this is about a world where everybody at the same day on the same time receives a box on their doorstep, and what's inside can tell them how long they're going to live. And it just had all of the emotions. You follow several different characters, I believe 8 POVs, all kind of different things happen, but there's just something in here that happened that absolutely broke me. And I think everybody that read it has loved it, so at least of my patrons. So let me know if you've read this one. If you haven't, you definitely need to get on it. Make it a priority, guys. I promise it's worth it. Obviously, The Dead Romantics is popping up on here again. I was very emotional about her losing her father because I have a very close relationship with my father, and the thought of losing my father, that's enough to break anyone. It broke me. It might break you too. This is a really great book. Definitely pick it up. And the last book that made me cry is Don't Cry for Me by Daniel Black. And this is another one that I borrowed from the library. And even though it says Don't Cry for Me, I cried, because this is about a father that's basically on his deathbed, and he's writing letters to his son who he hasn't been like in contact with in a very long time. And just hearing the hardships that he went through, it was just difficult to read about, and it was emotional to read about. So it made me cry. So those are the books that made me cry. Also, the ones that made me laugh, we talked about in the beginning. So if you're looking for a good laugh, if you're looking for a good cry, maybe these books can work for you in the same ways that they worked for me. Don't forget to leave a list of books that made you laugh and made you cry in the comment section down below. I hope you're having a lovely day or night. I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye, friends.
Sleigh bells ringing, diamonds blinging, carols singing.